Let me check something. Did we just miss like the whole first few minutes of this? We might have missed like the whole first few minutes of this. Whatever, shit happens, right? We're gonna have to recap here and go back to what we were talking about. Advantages and disadvantages of getting back in the game. So let's run it back. Welcome everyone to Saz Analytica. We're going to be discussing some price action, Bitcoin. Yeah, wow, man. I was literally talking for 5 minutes and realized that I wasn't streaming. So anyways, let's get to screen share and get to talking. What I was saying was I like the fact that we do have a very slow, drawn out sell-off here. This seems quite a bit more organic. A few people started selling, a few more people started selling. You got the smart sellers, the dumb sellers, and the dumber sellers. So it looks like a lot of the stuff that's going on right now isn't single candle sell-off. It's definitely not straight up whale activity. It's looking pretty solid. I think that we're really expressing the fact that this is a seller created channel right now, a very organic market created channel. And I don't think with the amount of sellers we have at play that this is going to last very long. We are at support and the support looks clean. It's been support for a number of days now, going back here over since the massive wick to the downside, 24th of July. So 3 days of support down here. It's looking clean to me. We have a dual band confluence still strong. Got to take that one. And a cooked RSI. So we're looking at a decent trade, a decent entry around this point for a potential channel. Definitely a good little long to the $29,500 range. And we'll see how this support holds up. I don't really look at this as skipping a stone across the water just yet, where in this scenario, you skip the stone across the water, support holds, support holds, support holds, and then it crashes, something like that, right? Well, I don't really see that being the case right now because it's only been single candle sell-offs up until now, which has been, or let's say the past couple sell-offs have been a little more drawn out. This is a hill. We've kind of rolled over a hill and everyone just kind of went with it. So this is more trading behavior, not really distribution, sell-off nastiness. Now, one thing that I also was looking at before I was live was the fact that this CME gap went away. We had a CME gap here and it's gone. So that should show you that CME gap should be held to somewhat of a high regard. We do have a CME gap that closed, let's say, within 24 hours. I think that's how a lot of those local CME gaps play out. I'm glad that it filled sooner than later. I would rather not have had that to worry about going forward. It just gives us a straight shot up to where we have another CME gap. Mind you, it's only $15 and it's 10 days away. So it's not as local a CME gap as yesterday's and earlier today's was, but it's still there. And I think we're going to fill it. Now we don't really have, as far as CME gaps are concerned, anything in the way for us to head up that direction. All we have down below is a CME gap at the $20,000 range, and then overhead at the $34,000 to $36,000 range. 34.55, 35.925. So we're looking at two CME gaps, one very local CME gap to the upside and one within reaching distance. I think combine that with the support, combine that with the dual band confluence, I think we're looking at overall reason to be bullish. I'm still long. I think it's a good time to be. I'm taking a look at the Bitcoin 4-hour block, and we have, let's take a look at the daily. I just want to look at these moving averages. Support at the 50. Doesn't look like the 125 is in danger. 128, 200 riding up. 200's been support once, near twice, and it doesn't even look like it's going to be needed the third time. Probably not for a while. If we go sideways, it should wrap around a bit, come out this way, come out looking something like that. Obviously a little less dramatic than this uphill slump, but yeah, I like the way that these moving averages are all in an upward trajectory. There is clearly support and things are looking okay. These angles are getting a lot less sharp, a lot more flat, a lot more expressive of a bullish psychology, almost like the not denial, the disbelief phase is coming to an end. And that's what we want to see here. I think that this was largely disbelief, this run in particular, and maybe there was some FOMO, so there was some emotional buyers, and obviously after you get some emotional buying, you get some emotional selling, and it's been a heck of a year. So I think now we're looking at more of a accumulation, more of an accepted price discovery, something that people can wrap their head around and accept. Okay, well, I should have bought earlier January, missed my chance. It came back all the way down to 20,000 flat, damn near it a couple times in the earlier part of the year. A lot of people sold late December to pay taxes or whatever, report losses. And now a lot of people have lost that opportunity to buy cheap sub 20K Bitcoin or around that price. So I think a lot of people are getting used to that idea that, hey, this is a 30K Bitcoin. If they're lucky, now a 25K pullback is what's on the table, and right now it's not really looking like that. Our 200 is riding above the $25,000 mark. So if anything, I would assume that we're not seeing 20,000 until we get a black swan event, which won't happen until after we probably hit somewhere around 40. And more, it would be real nice. I'm not going to say more realistically, but it would be pretty clean for us to fill this CME gap and then come back down to fill this $20,000 CME gap. Very possible this could be a runaway gap that we never touch again. Most likely the $16,000 CME gap and everything below are runaway gaps, probably never to be seen again. So we have maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 6 to 8 CME gaps. These lines are getting real small. You know what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So we have 8 CME gaps down below, 9 at 16, the 9th at 16, and then 10 at 20, the 10th one at 20,000, 11, 12 overhead, 13 overhead. We have 3 CME gaps overhead, and those are going to fill at the very least in the next Bitcoin bull market. Ideally, before then, give us a lot of action. It's been boring as hell lately. So I'm liking what I see here. I'm liking what I see, and I think a black swan event would likely we would start to peak out, let's say above 40,000. Let's assume, for the argument's sake of filling a CME gap, we can get to this $50,000 range, $54,000 high. And I think by the time we'd roll over, that's when some sort of whale out there would want to do some black swan event. And maybe Elon Musk gets excited, pumps us up a bit higher to 50,000s, and then says, oh, never mind, we're not accepting Bitcoin for your Tesla Cybertrucks. And bam, things roll over. Something like that I can see very possible. And who knows what we have. A black swan event ultimately is an unknown, but we do get a couple of them a year. And I would expect to get one after we reach our peak. And I don't think we've reached our peak. I don't think there's enough psychology to express the fact that we've reached our peak. Well, there is enough psychology to express is that we definitely are done considering 30 a high area. We're considering 30 as a place of support, not a place of resistance. There's just not that much selling going on. These angles are getting less steep. A lot of reason to believe that we're heading up. I like what I see here. I think our next move is probably going to be an explosion to the upside. Might not happen overnight. Might need to take a bit more time. Clearly, we've been grinding a support range for a number of days, and let's broaden this time to a 15-minute chart. But right before that sell-off, we were okay. We're in. Here was another one. Yeah. Okay. This is what I was thinking about. So we had one mass sell-off as we were climbing. I think this was the year high, and look, one of the interesting things that I want to take note of is that we haven't even cut all the way through this gold mine support. So the trend bias is still intact. So whatever this is, market manipulation, whale distribution, whatever we want to call it, I think it's mostly coming to an end. I don't think that there's really a legitimate max pain target. This person that was selling around here is selling between a price of 31,000 down to a low of 29. I think they let it go up first. And right now there's no further market selling to force whatever buys they've had in the book since earlier this month to get filled. This is probably, let's just say, this guy that started this sell-off probably had orders down here. Halfway through it, we're getting filled. So I would think the next move is up. I don't think there's much incentive for a whale to pound the price. And if anything, they've accumulated what they can in this little sideways run, couple sharp moves down, and now we start cleaning the move back up. Let's see. Web City USA. I heard that Bitcoin is like internet money. How do I get some? I'm a newbie. Welcome, Web City USA, to my channel. Thanks so much for joining. And yeah, well, Bitcoin is internet money. It's a good way, an elevator pitch that I often throw out for Bitcoin is it's like a digital version of gold. Gold has been there. You can't create gold out of the combination of certain elements, right? Gold is gold, and you can't replicate it. And what makes it such good money is that you have to go through some pretty intense processes to mine it and cleanse it and get it in such a way that it can be distributed out to a market, and it's very scarce. That's one of the most important things as well, very scarce. So think about Bitcoin as a digital version of this. You have only a finite amount of gold on planet Earth. The only way that amount of gold can increase is if a freaking gold asteroid gets mined. And so Bitcoin is like a digital program to replicate that physics concept that we have in our reality. Bitcoin is a scarce asset that operates on the internet. So let's say it is internet gold money, right? In addition to this, it has a number of very valuable features that benefit humanity in some beautiful ways. It's a decentralized peer-to-peer cash. Decentralized means, well, if the federal government, for example, wants to print, not the federal government, actually, the Federal Reserve wants to print more money, all they have to do is say, we want to print more money, and they go on their computer, they type in a number, we want to print 1 trillion more dollars, and we want to throw $1 billion into the pocket of this CEO of this bank that's collapsing, and we want to throw $100 billion into this guy's pocket. Well, that's someone just creating arbitrary money out of absolute thin air that's backed by nothing. It's not even backed by scarcity. It would be one thing if the dollar was even able to be digitally reproduced, but it was backed by something like gold, which it was for quite some time, and historically money has been. But now it's just thin air that some people in suits can decide we need to print more of it, and they print more. And what happens as a result? It devalues every other dollar in that system. So when you don't have anything backing it and you start printing tons and tons of dollars, that's the reason why eggs and butter go up in value. That's the reason why your grandparents talk about how boxes of cereal used to be 25 cents and eggs used to be this, and a dollar, let's say 5 cents a dozen, and right, you've heard all these stories before. Well, that's because there is no scarcity. So once you start injecting tons and tons of new dollars into a system that aren't backed by any sort of scarcity, think about it. The production of cereal hasn't gotten more difficult. The production of eggs and milk and butter haven't gotten more difficult. If anything, the processes have gotten more advanced, sophisticated, and productive. So what happens when you print more and more of these dollars that aren't backed by anything, it devalues the dollar in your pocket. And what they do is they give a ton of it to their homies. So it's a very parasitic system to the average person of the earth. It really only benefits a very small group of individuals at the top of the world. So that's what Bitcoin is. It is an internet money. It's decentralized. There is no button presser that can arbitrarily decide we're going to inject more Bitcoins into the system and this, that, whatever. No, Bitcoin is backed by a mathematical scarcity protocol, and there will only ever be about 21 million Bitcoins. So that's it. It's like gold. There's only going to be a number of pounds of gold or kilos, whatever you want to say, of gold on Earth. The second that last bit of gold is mined, that's it. We're not creating any more, and there's no chemical process that can change that law. And in Bitcoin, I would say it's pretty much the same thing. Without serious consensus, there is no way to just create more Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a magic internet money, and think of it very much like a digital scarcity program that replicates the scarcity of the physics of gold on planet Earth. Now, how do I get some? There's a couple ways, and some of the best ways to get Bitcoin are peer-to-peer. You ideally want your Bitcoin because Bitcoin is not tied to your identity unless you tie it to your identity. So if you use an on-ramp, and we'll talk about these, but let's say you use an on-ramp like Coinbase. You go to Coinbase, you type in your name, you give them your driver's license or passport or something like that. In other words, you KYC. It's called Know Your Customer. And what you do is you KYC, and now whenever you log in with your email and your password, and you log into that account and you buy Bitcoin, well, that's going to be Bitcoin that's been purchased through your name. And once you move it off the Coinbase wallet, what's going to happen is there's going to be a blockchain forensics firm that's going to be able to identify that Joe bought Bitcoin on this day in this amount and moved it to this next address. Now, there are ways to anonymize it after you move it out of Coinbase. And I would strongly encourage you to understand that self-custody is the most important. You do not want to buy Bitcoin and keep it on Coinbase, even though you are using your name to get this Bitcoin and purchase it and moving it to and doing all this and keeping it in Coinbase. You want to move it immediately out of there to your own wallet, because now it's like you have your own access to that Bitcoin, and no government can come in and say, hey, the economy's failing, and we're going to give everyone that has assets in an account, dollars in a bank account, stocks in a portfolio, Bitcoin on an exchange, giving everyone a 20% haircut. You now have 20% less of that money. The government has now confiscated it to pay some of our debts. This is what the government can do. Now, if you buy your Bitcoin on Coinbase, the first thing you want to do is get yourself a wallet, and that can be done on your PC, your computer. That could be done with hardware wallets like Cold Card, Trezor, and it can also be done with apps on your phone, wallet apps. Those are called hot wallets. And an example like can be like Blue Wallet or Samurai. And there's tons and tons of options out there, and what's best for you is probably those which support the greatest anonymity protocols. So that's how you would buy Bitcoin. You would go create some sort of identification login through a site like Coinbase. You'd be able to buy. Now, another way that you might be able to do it is if you go to a local Bitcoin meetup. Wherever you live, maybe you can find out, let's say you live in New York City. Well, there's Bitcoin meetups everywhere. Maybe you can find a Bitcoin meetup on Eventbrite or on Twitter. You can kind of find out some people in the community and figure out where the next Bitcoin meetup is and how often they are. Show up with a little bit of cash, and I guarantee you there's someone there that's looking for some cash, then they're willing to, send you some Bitcoin. And it's a very safe transaction, and the Bitcoin community tends to be filled with really good people. So I would say peer-to-peer is probably your best option. Second best option, and that's also the hardest option, especially for large quantities. And the second best option is to use some sort of on-ramp. And we all agree that Coinbase is a big enemy of Bitcoin, but it is one of the absolute best and most efficient, easy on-ramps to access. So that's how you would buy Bitcoin. And keep in mind, you buy your Bitcoin, and no matter what you do, you want to be able to move it immediately. So what I'd recommend actually Web City USA, you might want to reach out to me, sazanalytica@gmail.com. I do teach a lot about this stuff, and I will hold your hand as you learn more about this. I think it's good to have a guide that isn't going to scam you. This space is absolutely filled with scammers, and I just want to make sure that you don't get scammed. So don't hesitate to reach out if you want to do this with some help. If you want to do this absolutely on your own, totally okay. That's what most of us have done. In fact, a lot of us have been here for a while. We had to figure all this stuff out from scratch. So and through means like this, communicating with people online, YouTube videos, and so forth. So yeah, I think it's very doable if you want to do it by yourself. If you need any help, reach out to me, sazanalytica@gmail.com. I'll be happy to walk you through a couple of these processes. That being said, if you have any more questions, please ask at any point in time. There's a lot to learn about Bitcoin, and the rabbit hole goes very deep. So you have questions, show up every day whenever you can, and I will be very happy to answer them. Regarding price action, back to this for a minute. Look, we're just kind of going sideways right now. I'm curious to see if we'll get more signals, but so far the consistency of the signals over the past few days does reflect that we have a lot of support down here. Just straight up looking at the book, I see a very robust buy side order book. We have orders, a massive wall at 28,500, 27,000 and change, 27,800, 28,000 flat, 28.1. We got walls all over the place. So you can clearly see that there's a lot of support in the book. It's probably a good time to accumulate. And this is actually a very interesting concept for you, Web City USA. It's valuable for you to do something called dollar cost averaging. It's far more valuable to you. Here, I'm going to turn this off because we're not even dealing with charts right now. It's very valuable for you to dollar cost average. And what does dollar cost average mean? Well, dollar cost average means, hey, I have $1,000 that I want to put into Bitcoin. How should I invest into Bitcoin? Well, if you only have $1,000 and you know that Bitcoin has gone down and it's gone up and it's gone all over the place. Well, it might be wise for you to put $100 in on every Tuesday. Now, what you're doing if you dollar cost average is you're taking some at the Tuesday's value of last week and the Tuesday's value of this week and the Tuesday value of next week. And what happens is, hey, if Bitcoin has a spike to the downside, maybe you catch a little bit more corn for your dollar. Corn, short for Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin price pumps one of those weeks and you catch a little less corn for your dollar. So overall, what you'll be doing is somewhat averaging out your buy instead of blowing your load all on one moment. And one of the worst things you can do is set yourself up for failure. If you buy a lot of Bitcoin, and let's say relative to your amount of dollars that you're able to live off of, it's a little too much. What a lot of people will do is get very excited about Bitcoin, and they will buy a massive amount with all their savings, and then Bitcoin will take a spin to the downside. And next thing you know, these guys are 10% underwater, and they're like, all right, man, it's going to be okay. 10%, I can live with this. Okay, I knew I was getting into some trouble, but all right, I'm just the unlucky one. Then it goes to down 20%, 15%, 20%. Now what happens is you get a lot of people that threw a lot of money into Bitcoin, and they just timed it wrong. Luck was not on their side, and next thing you know, they end up selling a bottom because they don't know how to handle the emotion of an asset that moves. So it's very valuable for you to take on something like dollar cost averaging to make sure that you protect yourself from yourself. You don't want to sell Bitcoin. Whatever money you spend to buy Bitcoin, it should be with a 5 to 10 year plan. So that includes all of the surety protocols. You want to make sure you buy your Bitcoin. You want to make sure you move it off into your own wallet. You want to make sure you take care of your private keys and put them somewhere they ain't ever going to go away. There's a lot of things that you want to do that are very basic, but they'll protect you. And Bitcoin is a 5-year investment, 10-year investment. In fact, it's a lifetime investment. But if you buy, a lot of people bought the top. Imagine someone that bought $60,000 Bitcoin. Well, they're probably not going to see a break even value on their investment for 4 or 5 years from the moment they paid that money at $60,000. Fortunately, you're at 30. You're at $29,000 right now. So say we roll over and we go all the way back to the bottom, that's 50%. Well, the people that bought at 60,000 and saw it go down to 15,000, I'll tell you, they're probably crying, they're probably struggling. So it's very valuable for you to take on very sound money management strategies, even as an investor, even as a curious individual getting into the space. Bitcoin is absolutely one of the most important things you'll ever be able to buy with money, with fake dollars that are in circulation right now, just trash fiat money. Wherever you are in the world, all fiat is trash. Bitcoin is probably one of the absolute best trades that you can make for that trash dollar. But you have to be prepared to hold it for a very long time. And I think that's just how you should approach most investments, particularly Bitcoin, because it is going to be the money of the future. Absolutely. And hey, what's up, Bitcoin motorist? Good to see you, my friend. So I just wanted to do a quick show tonight. Show face. I'm actually learning a lot about AI. Been having fun with editing and learning more about all this AI stuff and bending out of my comfort zone to learn something new. That stuff's definitely the future. Whether it be prompts that help you create programs in ChatGPT, or art that you can make to make thumbnails for your videos, or even video art that you can use to layer on top, AI art on top of your videos. Man, stuff is crazy. Voice cloning, you guys, AI is actually really interesting to me. So I'm spending a lot of time learning more and more about AI and growing my skill base there. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? So I'm very curious. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I started a few days ago. You guys see a lot of my thumbnails are AI generated art. So it's actually a lot of fun. So that being said, I'm probably going to pop back over, chill, put on something to watch, and call it a night. Maybe smoke a late night cigar. It's 11 over here. But yeah, Web City USA, a pleasure to have you. Happy to educate you to the best of my ability. And I hope that you come into this community safely, soundly, and wisely. And I'm happy to help you. Tune in anytime you want, ask whatever question you have. Bitcoin motorist, my friend, hope all is well with you. I think I'll actually be seeing you probably in a week or two. So look forward to that as well. All right, everyone, have a great evening, and I'll be catching you guys tomorrow morning and maybe sometime tomorrow afternoon for a Bitcoin lounge. A nice long stream, smoke a cigar, chill, answer questions, hang out with you guys. Look forward to it. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great one, everyone. Peace.